There is no I in team. Whether you're talking about the Olympics or anything else, it is a collective group. When you're looking at your investments, your overall result is going to be determined by the team of people that you have, the collaboration that goes into your CPA, your financial advisor, your tax attorney, or your estate planning attorney. How do you communicate? What's your process? We're going to talk about that today on Consider This Program. Well, good morning and welcome to Consider This Program. I'm your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Grant Soliven.
And we are happy to have Grant along. Hey, if you are new to the program, I'm Joe Clark. I'm the managing partner of the Financial Enhancement Group and very happy to be here. Been doing this for a little over 20 years. If you're somewhat new to the program and you haven't heard the name Grant Soliven, let me help you out. Grant has his degree from Purdue University in financial planning. Happened to have a great professor his last year. Oh, wait, that was me. I'm sorry. Actually taught at Purdue between 2008 and 2015. Grant was one of the graduates. He's been in the financial services industry since he graduated, been at the Financial Enhancement Group for over 5 years now, and just a wonderful, wonderful part of our team and one of the leadership. So fortunate to have him as part of us. And part of what we're going to do today. So Grant and I both happen to be athletes. What did you do at Purdue?
I played rugby.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say anything about the intelligence of those decisions or anything else that he did. You did more than just rugby, though. Wasn't there something else that you crossed into?
Yeah, this one even.
We won't even talk about it. Yeah, we'll leave that. That was one of those crazy ventures. But here's the deal: as athletes, I was a football player. As athletes, one of the things that we do is we have regimens of how we behave in the morning, how we behave in the afternoon. I got into this conversation, Grant, and I don't know if it was true for you with one of my friends last week sometime, or maybe in Alaska when I was there, how I always got more done in high school sports we're talking about now. Okay. I always got more done during in-season high school sports than when I was off-season, right? And the reason for that is you had plenty of time, and so you end up watching Gilligan's Island and the Flintstones and Archie Bunker and the Jeffersons, and you enjoy all those TV shows, and then you get caught at the end and you go, oh, right? So
out of time.
It really is all about time management. So as you think about time management, when somebody is going into and preparing for preparing to go into that retirement or separating from the workforce, as we like to call it. Mm-hmm. From a time management perspective, where should they put their time? What is one of the first things that they should look at or look to doing as they go into that phase?
Well, this goes back to regiment, and one of the big regimented pieces of our training, college and high school, was practice. And I think the biggest piece that we tend to lead families to is that retirement practice year. Focus on finding out what your fixed and social expenses are and start essentially living through what that will look like when you start exiting the workforce.
Now, we are actually going to talk a whole segment about that. So if you want to hear that, stay tuned. But before we started practicing, if we walked into a weight room, now, you and I collectively have 50 years of being in weight rooms. Not only that, when we walk around, we carry a lot of weight, right?
That's true.
But we know what to do when we walk into a weight room, but we didn't the first time.
100%.
We would have hurt ourselves. So the first thing that we had to have was a coach.
Correct.
Right? We had to have that strategy. So when you were in rugby, which honestly I know nothing about other than watching on TV going, I'm glad that's not me, right? What kind of coaches did you have in rugby?
Oh, my goodness. Just like you would expect from a football team, we had line coaches. We had pack coaches. The pack
what coaches?
Pack. Essentially, it's the linemen of the rugby team. Then you had the backline coaches, which were more the receivers and running backs, if you will, to tee it up. Then you had our head coach. You had our conditioning coach, our lifting coach. So it was a pretty broad team.
So I have to know now, do they have rugby in the Olympics?
They do not.
Okay.
Hopefully.
There could be a reason for this, right? They're maybe the Australians haven't got together, but it took 100 years to get golf back.
100%.
104, 100. Over. I found out an argument, over rules. We'll get into that in another story. So when I look at my coaches that I need to prepare for the retirement practice year, who am I looking for and why?
That's a great question, Joe. Primarily, you're looking at your financial advisor or investment advisor and your CPA. Those are your head coach and your assistant head coach. They're going to walk you through that retirement practice year. They'll walk you through your tax planning, walk you through what to be paying attention to before you get on that field.
Now, you use a lot of words there, so let's go ahead and unpack that.
Sure.
You said you had a head coach and an assistant coach, right? Mm-hmm. So one is in charge, but the other one matters a lot.
Correct.
Right? Which is why you hear if you watch the NFL or the NBA and you hear somebody firing an assistant coach but not the head coach, or firing the head and promoting the assistant, that kind of stuff happens. So why would you say one is in charge over the other, and who should that person be?
Great. So what I'm about to say is not just because you and I are on the radio and we are the financial advisor. That's not the point. The truth about the head coach is they are the financial advisor, because the financial advisor has a broad knowledge or broad scope of knowledge on how the whole game is played. So looking at retirement, what that means is on a football field, you have to have your offense, your defense, your special teams. In retirement, you have to have estate planning, tax planning, investment planning, distribution planning, income planning. And so your advisor is going to have the greatest perspective over all the pieces. That assistant head coach or assistant coach is going to be a CPA, because your financial advisor most likely is not signing your tax return, but they're a very important, crucial piece to that overall plan and strategy.
Yeah, we could spend years unpacking everything that he just said, because of all of the moving parts that are there. I would argue that either your CPA or your financial advisor, hopefully with a CFP or somebody who's got a degree in financial planning, is who you're working with. And I honestly don't care which of the two are in charge, because here's what I know, and it's scary, but I'm just going to lay it out there. I know that you're going to work with people that you like and trust. And my biggest fear in life, and it's why I believe people need to have some degree in financial planning or education, my biggest fear is that you can trust people who are wrong. And I'll give you a great example of a loving coach with bad advice. And I used to look at Grant and Taylor and Andrew and Jamie and Chris. Those are the ones that work for the Financial Enhancement Group that I taught years and years and years ago. I used to look at them their last day, and I said, somebody with gray hair who loves you dearly is going to look at you when you leave this classroom and tell you that you need to go buy a house and not rent one. Because the generations that I came from told people that they should always buy property, own it, and not rent it, right? And they were just coming out of the housing crisis and everything else that was going on, and they would look at me and go, nobody's going to tell us that, professor. And it's like, well, yeah, they did, and a lot of them went out and bought houses. They got great advice, they thought, from somebody that had the best of intentions, but didn't really understand the economic environment that we were in, what it would do to their credit, and what was going to happen with their relationship. And what ultimately happens is when people get married, they rarely stay in the same house. So they end up having to sell that house to buy another house, go through all the real estate commissions, or what we call carry cost, or their job moves to a new location. All of the problems are there. My point is this: the coach gave the best advice that coach knew how to give. What you need to do is find somebody you like and trust, but you've got to make sure that they're qualified, and you've got to ask the right questions. Right? We have a checklist for that, by the way, if you want one that says, how do I know I'm dealing with the right financial advisor? If you want that, simply go to yourlifeafterwork.com, put that in as a request. We're more than happy to send it to you. Secondly, when you look at a CPA, you want to find out if they collaborate or cooperate with your other advisors, right? So, Grant, when you had your coach and all those assistant coaches, the pack coach, I think I'm in Boy Scouts again, right? But you got your pack coach.
Right.
How did they communicate? How did that work?
It was always with the team, and it was always in collaboration with each other. The head coach would never make an executive decision that would hurt the team or the other coaches without their participation.
So tell me what we mean when we say cooperation.
So that would be head coach telling the offensive coordinator, I want to run a pass play every fourth down.
And what would collaboration be?
he would go to the offensive coordinator and ask, based on this team's defense, what do you think about running a pass play on every fourth down?
So understand the difference, because that's really what happens. I spent 20 years of my life in Rotary. I'm a Paul Harris Fellow. I very, very much believe in what's going on. And I would hear people say, well, I work with that CPA and he works with this financial advisor. And the reality is I knew both of them. And yes, they passed at Rotary. They did know each other. And they may even see each other on the golf course, but it didn't mean that they worked together. One had the relationship. Whoever you liked and trusted the most had the relationship. And the other one cooperated. So the CPA would call and say, hey, I want an IRA contribution made, or a SEP contribution made, or this amount of money to go into a 401k. Or the financial advisor would call the CPA and say, hey, by the way, I created a $40,000 capital gain for the year. But there was no collaboration. Collaboration is the same example that Grant laid out. And that's really what you need from your financial team. You need a CPA and you need a financial advisor that truly are willing to communicate, know how to communicate, and actually do communicate. This cannot be on a game board. It's got to be what happens on the field. Give us a call at 800-928-4001 or go to yourlifeafterwork.com. Get signed up for your Next Steps meeting.